This podcast contains potentially adult language, adult themes, definitely drinking, and possibly sexual context. Listener discretion is advised. Okay, this is Drinking with Authors, the Literary Briefs episode. I'm your host, Erica Lance.
Jan Paquette.
And with us tonight is Beth Patterson. Woo! Okay.
How does my glass keep magically refilling?
I really wish
Power of Prince.
happened.
It is.
My Drinking with Authors shot glass has refilled itself with. By the way, these things, I bought them, and this is not a normal shot glass. By the way, I used to be a bartender. This is not a normal shot glass. This is like 2 shots in one, so I'm very proud of myself. It has honey jack in it. Figure it gets the job done. Jen, let's talk about the boring thing you're putting in your face.
LaCroix.
Ain't no shame in that.
Lime. It's pretty good, actually.
Oh, honey jack and shots. It's not cold. Okay, Beth, what are you drinking?
This is a red blend by a winery called Field Recordings, but their version, they call this fiction. So I thought, I can't, there are going to be some things stranger than this.
Yeah. Oh my God, yes. And there are going to be some things that are inspired stranger than that.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have rapid fire questions. I've got this. I've done some shots. What people don't know is the last podcast, I did one of these double shots and then filled this with my Drinking with Authors cup with honey jack and ginger ale. So I'm doing fucking great right now. So rapid fire question number 1, what is your favorite book?
Wow, that is, I'm sure a lot of authors give you this because that's really hard to say as far as books that that influenced me as a child. Like favorite childhood book was probably David and the Phoenix. A lot of my favorite books are, as an adult, are not only a lot of speculative fiction that I'm reading, but also things like Confederacy of Dunces, Cat's Cradle, the Poisonwood Bible, a lot of things that are non-speculative fiction. And then a lot of, I'm currently binge reading a lot of the Shauna McGuire series.
Oh.
I just picked up, I did not answer your question, did I? I don't have a favorite.
It's fine. We're drinking. You just go. You go. I don't do really well with the rapid fire, so if you answer more, I have to think less. I like it.
Okay, because that what is my favorite book is impossible to say.
What book would you recommend people read?
Well, you see, now we're going to go back to young people's literature because after a certain point, you don't know what is going to appeal to people, what is going to be off-putting. So when I go back to things that were perhaps Newbery winners, things that adults can still relate to, there are things that are great for adult fiction, but might be off-putting to other readers. So going back to the things that influenced me, like Julie of the Wolves. Oh my God. That was one. A lot of the Marguerite Henry books, that because we're basing on some things that were that really happened and based on real horses and events.
Okay, so then what is your least favorite book of all time?
What is my least favorite book? Oh God. Okay, people are going to hate me for this.
People already hate me way more than they're going to hate you when I get talking on this podcast about my least favorite books. You're good.
I don't know because a least favorite book. There are things that I will just make myself go. I paid $12 for this book, and God damn it, I'm going to get through this. But there's certain books that just pissed me off because I felt like they got off the course of things. The entire arc, especially if it's in a series, like there has to be. I want to see some continuity. The final Jean Owl book, I couldn't get through. It pissed me off.
They finally get back to the Zelendoni with John Delar's family.
Yeah, it pissed me off. It got got me really, and of course I was going through a very bad time when I was reading this. Spoiler alert, people are douchebags. But when John Delar hooks up with his ex, I wanted to throw the book out the window saying, fuck you, Gino, you know, because that had been,
she spent most of book 3 with another person. So, I mean.
Yeah. Now, that being said, if I can say something to redeem myself in the eyes of Gene Owl fans, Valley of the Horses is a book that every 13-year-old girl should have.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah, I will say the Plains of Passage can go fuck itself. So like I fucking hate that book. And the reason I do, so see, like you're gonna be redeemed because you're not me talking about this. I've talked about this fucking before. Do not describe every blade of fucking grass for me as we're walking through it and the genesis of that fucking grass. Nobody cares. Go back to the fucking Clan of the Cave Bear where people are riding on fucking horses and whatever's happening. Like, no.
I want to learn how to do flint napping.
And I know that a lot of anthropologists are especially pissed off at these books. I mean, it's speculative. We can't honestly believe that one person invented the atlatl, or one couple were responsible for the invention of the atlatl, the needle, the domestication of horses and wolves that later became dog. I mean, we cannot. Of course, it's speculative.
And it's a blonde-haired white woman who does it all.
Yeah, the what?
She's a blonde-haired white woman who does it all.
Thank you. I know, it's like, and you know, the things, the Valley of the Horses, on the other hand, I have to say, you know, no matter what people sat you down and taught you or didn't teach you, it's something that every 8th grade girl, you know, just read the Valley of the Horses, and when you come of age, you'll know what to do.
Yeah, no, I hands down, Clan of the Cave Bear, love that book. Valley of the Horses, love that book. Got to fucking Plains of Passage, wanted to kill everyone in the room.
Mammoth Hunters is where she hooks up with Rannoch the whole time.
Yeah. And you know,
don't, we're not going down there, just makes us angry. Okay, moving on.
Okay, thank you. Okay, bite my tongue. But yeah, the Shelters of Stone, no, I'm sorry, Land of the Painted Caves pissed me off. I mean, let me tell you how I really feel. It pissed me off.
See, I see a little different from you. I fucking stopped at Plains of Passage. I tried, and then I was like, you've lost me buying any more books from you. And I'm a little bit different. Like, and Jen, I feel like I've helped change Jen's mind about this. I will not fucking read a book if it loses me. Like, I don't care. Even if it's somebody I love and that I'm close to, I won't. Because I can't. If you push me so far out of the story, like I'll give you a couple, like, okay, you push me out of the story a little bit. But if I'm out of the story too much, I'm like, fuck this. I don't care if I paid for it. I will not finish it. I will not finish doing it. I'm done. I don't care.
That's a hard lesson that I think a lot of authors need to know, because Bill and Jody were among the people. They were the ones who I give the most credit to saving my novel from being what I think Anne Lamott would have called a self-indulgent sack of spider puke. And at the very first, the opening scene was something that would have been very off-putting. And that's the thing, is like, if not even your friends can get through something, you know, it's like you have to make sure that you keep your readers engaged. And it's a bitter pill to swallow, but I think it's important.
I got to throw a caveat. Trust your friends that actually read the genre you want to read and can give you constructive advice on it.
Yeah, it's you can't take everything.
No, not at all. You can't, and you have to go, do you actually like the kind of book I'm writing? I have a ton of friends that are super supportive of my writing and they love that I write, but I don't give a flying fuck if they ever read anything because they're not my audience on either of the genres I write. So
yeah, I mean, that's the same sort of thing, like, you know, because you said you write horror and erotica. Here's the funny thing about me. I collect sick jokes. bring on the filthy jokes, the shockers, that like the things like, oh no, you just didn't, tell them to me. I'm all ears when it comes, but there's a buffer of humor. When it comes to the serious stuff, I found out once, that I cannot write in that genre. I need like a buffer of humor to keep that discomfort at bay. Like I'm very uncomfortable writing about the real intimacy. Um, and it was for an open call. And I'm friends with the editor who had put this out, but she had said it's supposed to be about sex or love with demons, not and or. So I was getting all philosophical about this woman who invokes a demon and what happens when he has a human experience and she has an infernal experience and she's no longer quite human and he's no longer a true demon and blah blah blah. She's like, nope, there has to be some, serious.
There's going to be some fucking. She's doing a fucking gesture for
Yeah, for those
watching this on YouTube.
But yeah, for those who are not watching the visual, there has to be some serious sausage going on. And so I'm sitting there like, so she gave me three choices, and I love this person dearly, and I appreciate that she understood my discomfort. She said, well, you could pull out, no pun intended, or just see if I can actually do this under my real name. Or she said, you could just go crazy and take on a nom de plume like Lolita Sucker Pop.
That's a brilliant fucking
that is
name. I hope you took that
wonderful.
Immediately.
I wish I had in hindsight, but I didn't. I just decided that I was going to go forth very uncomfortably under my real name going, and then he took and he put it in my, oh God, don't make me write this. And I got through it and it said, okay, we tried this. This is not what we're cut out to do. We can only write about salacious topics if there's humor involved. Let's go back to singing a song called Show Me on the Doll.
Oh, see, I think that's brilliant because every author is different. What every author wants to create is different. And from somebody that straddles the writing, I write humorous erotica. That's my erotica that I write. I write humorous
erotica.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is awesome. You see, that's what I should have done. Make it humorous.
The first book I put out was called My Home on Whore Island, and it was really based on the line from Anchorman. It made me laugh my fucking ass off. And the sequel that just got released is called Slumming It on Slut Street. And it's very humorous erotica, but at the same time, when I write horror, none of my stories happy ending, and everybody pretty much has the same ending. Yeah, you like that? I straddled both. They have the same reaction I find a lot of times on my stories where my horror stories is people go, what the fuck just happened? Like, it's not settled. They're not settled at the end of it whatsoever. But I think, at the same time, I can't write sweet romance. I can't write some of the other stuff that gets written by people because I think each of us has a voice that we have and can communicate in that voice. And I think if it's not for you, then it's not for you. Like Jen has this series that is just a wonderful epic adventure fantasy series, right? And I love it. And I love that I'm eviscerating fiction in it, but
you're the voice of reason.
Whatever. Half a dozen of one, 6 of the other. But I know that I can't write that kind of series. It's just not my ball game. It's not where I find inspiration. So I think it's great when you learn your jam and then you can do your jam.
Well, here's the thing too, is that there's a lot of horror that isn't necessarily in that genre. You can find a lot of very terrifying things in something that is fantasy because we're going into the realms of possibilities, things that are not what you typically expect as horror that are in fact horrifying. And you can find some really wonderful love stories and things that are not that genre. It doesn't necessarily have to be what you set out to make it. When I published, the publisher itself is Boots Up, but I have 10 million copies available at Louisiana Music Factory, hard copies, and it's on Kindle KDP. But when this came out, the publisher decided to put it as paranormal romance. And I'm like, oh no, you didn't, because the romance was not the end game for me. There is a structure, an arc where the romance is something that is in passing, but the greater arc is that there's still something missing, and the main character still has to come into her own to be complete. So it's like, you know, even though this is classified as paranormal romance, I'm sorry. It's not.
They were just figuring out their Amazon, like what category to put it in, and
Algorithm.
algorithm.
Okay. This is supposed to be rapid fire questions, and I thought of one. And
I
Jen,
have,
you better think
I
one.
have a threesome. I have the
Okay.
three. All right.
I
So
have one, and then you can have a three. What the
Okay.
fuck is happening on
Woohoo.
this podcast? So Rush is your favorite band. What is your favorite song?
wait,
Again,
You were going there. You were too fucking slow.
I don't, because I have this very bad habit, and I think a number of my friends do too, is that I will get obsessed with a certain song and I will listen to it 16, 20, 30 times a day, and then I'm sick of it, and then I move on to the next one. I don't do that with people, but for some reason I do that with songs.
what's the
Um,
last one you did?
I do. The last one I did was a song that came out probably in the 90s by a Chilean band that changed my life. A group from Chile called Yapu. And you know, if you said their name in Chile, everybody would know, because they are absolutely iconic. Um, they were exiled during the Pinochet regime, you know, the dictatorship. Um, and they took what everybody thinks, you know, people think they know what these are erroneously called pan flute bands, just because they have the quenas and the zampoñas and the, you know, all the traditional Andean instruments, and some are more specific to different regions. But they absolutely took that and turned it on its ear and made it into a genre, made it into something that is cross-cultural. They absolutely made it their own. And this song called Se alumbra la vida, life lights up. I never get tired of that song. My Spanish is piss poor, but I'm starting to get more and more, you know, as I just listen, because there's so much of that song that transcends language. It is one of those songs that if I am dead, or if I'm on life support and somebody, you know, they said, should we unplug this person? Play that song, and if I don't respond, I'm dead. Unplug me.
I hope you put that in your living will for your husband.
Yeah, Se alumbra, several Rush songs, of course, but a number of others, including Se alumbra la vida, life lights up. They have a lot of other topics that are pertinent to human rights and things like that. But this is just a pure joy. And I was playing at the time with a group that they were from Honduras and Guatemala, but they played a lot of the music of Andean folk music, you know. So I learned these different rhythms from, I was playing bass, and I learned these rhythms from Bolivia, Ecuador, Chile, Peru, you know, things like that. And as the token gringa, I embraced it all, and I was digging the sounds and the traditional rhythms, but they put on Yapu, and my whole world changed.
That's amazing. Okay, Jen, your 3 questions. Go for it now that I've.
All right.
I'm
Well, now I had a pinch hitter thrown in here because I was gonna do favorite band next to Rush, favorite album, and I was gonna do favorite song, but I'm gonna add first album that you bought for yourself.
First album that I bought for myself.
Pearl Jam 10.
I know I'm generally trying to give you an honest answer, because I think it was probably Synchronicity by the Police.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I cut my teeth on Police bass lines because I was a bass player first, and Sting had a great way of approaching the bass in a way that was simple, that I could follow along what he was doing, but his choice of notes and his approach was tasteful enough that there is so much music in just more than just the simplicity. It was his choice of notes and the phrasing that helped me cut my teeth, just mimicking what I thought was musical.
Me and Jen are awesome Guitar Hero players. just in case that ever comes up and you ever need that. If you ever need
I
that
have a
backup, we,
I can play the White Stripes. That's my
yeah,
and Judas Priest.
yeah.
That's the-
Just in case you ever need that. If you
There's-
ever
there's
need a
an
Guitar
epic-
Hero band backup,
Going back to Rush, there's an epic video of when Rush was on the Colbert Report, and backstage they gave them Guitar Hero or you know the band version, you know, where they're supposed to play Tom Sawyer. They're supposed to play their own song on the little controllers, and they bombed.
It's different. I will say I haven't played it in a long time, but I do have I live with a musician. I had to learn an instrument. I played flute too. But I have a bass, and the bass and then the Guitar Hero bass is similar. The guitar is totally different, but
Mhm.
okay, you asked questions and were you talking to drunk people, Jen? You got to go back to the first one.
okay, the first one was well, we just did first album you bought. Oh, favorite album overall, and then band next to Rush.
Yeah. I again, favorite album overall, hard to say, you know, because with Rush, you know, you've got that whole era that would be the Farewell to Kings, Hemispheres, Permanent Waves, that kind of era right there. It's hard to narrow it down, but I've narrowed it down to 3. Next to Rush, I'm a huge Iron Maiden fan.
Ooh, okay.
I
Love
miss
Maiden.
hair bands. I'm gonna say it. I grew up with hair bands. I grew up going to see them on Sunset Strip. So I grew up in Hollywood, California. So
Nice.
yeah, I got to go see them. What a lot of people don't know is the bands had to pay to play in those clubs.
Yep.
Not all of them, but a lot of them. And I miss hair bands. We don't have hair bands anymore.
It was a very strange time because when I was starting to play bass, and of course the sexism was just not even hidden. So people were saying, of course, I also grew up in a town that was not exactly, I mean, Lafayette, Louisiana, you know, for all the things that I love about my hometown, it's not fun to grow up when you're a woman and want to do things that people think are typically assigned to the men. I'm sure that's different now. But so it was very strange to hear these guys that were threatening me if I ever dared to come to a certain music store again. And at the same time, they're worried about their spandex and their hair and their eyeliner. So that was a very cognitively dissonant time. But this is one of the anthologies I was recently in. And it's one of the photos that I sent you, Erica.
Yes, and we'll post it. It will be posted.
It's a wonderful indie publisher based in Australia. And I feel a connection because I got to be connected with these folks after my last time in Australia. But one of the prerequisites was it has to be about, it's a horror story. It has to be around bands, music, groupies, whatever. And you have to choose your title based on a song title. And that's the nice thing, is that you cannot copyright a song title. And so my story was Power Slave. And not only did I take an Iron Maiden title, but I have tiny little Iron Maiden story titles hidden all throughout my story. And I never bothered to count how many, but if I had money, you know, before the pandemic and shit, I would have had a contest like, how many Iron Maiden references can you spot in this one song? Count the number correctly and you get a nice pat on the head. That's all I can offer right now.
A socially distanced pat on the head. I like it.
Yeah, there are a shit ton of.
What is the name
Iron
of that
Maiden.
book? Say it out loud for the people that aren't watching us on video.
Oh,
Although
okay.
if you're not,
Right.
you should
Okay.
be, because it's way
People-
more entertaining.
Yeah, people do not have the visual. It's banned, as in BANNED. It's from Black Hair, HARE, like the rabbit. Black Hair Publishing, and it's an anthology. And yeah, everything has to. And for those of you who can't see the title, it's this wicked looking chick who's got a 6-string bass, and she's really hot, but you can kind of see the skull face underneath. There's a bunch of flames and shit, and it's really cool, and you should buy it. But it's because I thought, you know, combining horror with the music industry, I barely have to lift a finger for this. I could tell you guys so many horrors about the music industry, but mine was largely about things that I really had to deal with. And I'm just going to put it out there. Part of this was just shameless revenge porn.
Hey,
I know
I'm
you're
all
supposed to
about
care
that.
about the characters, but there are things, there are helpful hints in there in case anybody reads a story about how not to act when you attend a live music concert. God, have I really drunk over half a bottle of wine by now?
You did. You did.
Yeah. But anyway, so it's all kinds of things like, don't do the ear splitting 2-finger whistle in a small room. Don't, scream out requests for free bird in the middle, and that's in there too, but and all the other kinds of evil that men do. But anyway, yeah. So see if you can count the number of Iron Maiden references in this story, Power Slave, in this anthology band, BANNED.
That is awesome. Okay, I have a question. You talked a little bit in um about your writing process, but where do you put yourself? So you a pantser, not a shit pantser. Obviously, that was early in your career, but
That was very early.
yeah, are you a pantser, a plotter, a plantser? Like, what is your method?
I'm still trying to find that. The Wild Harmonic, my first and only novel thus far, I started out as being totally a pantser because I just didn't know what the hell I was doing. I said, oh, I've got enough to make a story here, and then I can expand it and expand it. So it was before I knew what I was doing. So it's more like having like kind of a story equivalent of an insect in that it's got a head and a thorax and an abdomen. It's like, it's all one and the same, but yeah. There are a lot of things I would have done differently. And I'm grateful for the counsel that I got from Bill and Jody and a few other people. So I'm working on another one that I tried strictly as a plotter. The end result between the Wild Harmonic or the sequel and the plotter is that the plotter work in progress is like, I've got this strong world and all the characters are still kind of flat and one-dimensional. And the pantser thing, like with the Wild Harmonic, it's a hot mess, but it's like getting to play with my imaginary friends.
I don't know.
So I'm still trying to figure out what I am. I asked Jody, and she said she's a plantser.
Jody is a plantser. She absolutely, yeah. And I think, you have to make sure you don't put so many guardrails up that you can't play.
Yeah, so, that's the mistake that I made with this other work in progress that is not related to the Wild Harmonic. It's a standalone novel. So I've got some guardrails up, and now I think it's time to start going nana boo boo, and be that smartass kid in the back of the classroom who shakes things up a little bit.
I think that's brilliant. You're talking to somebody who is ridiculously in the pantsing profession. Yeah. I do not plot whatsoever anything I write.
My first attempt was so messy, but that's because I didn't know what I was doing about certain things, that I think I swung hard the other way with plotting this other work in process. And now, so I'm still trying to find a balance, but it will definitely be a hybrid of some sort.
When are we to expect your next story, my friend?
Well, I've got a novella that I just sent to a beta reader, very reputable person. Okay, it's Judy.
I was gonna say that's a super reputable person.
Yeah, it's
listening. If I can send any of my stories, just ping me. It's fine. It's cool.
Yeah, it's the next thing that should be out that noteworthy is going to be a novella. It's already been accepted by Black Hair, and it started out as just a story that was under 5,000 words, and it's very much my wonky narrative where I'm just basically completely unapologetic. There are F-bombs. There are just ridiculous things that happen. It's making fun of a lot of things. It's not so uncensored that it goes into the, oh God, she did, you know, I'm trying to make sure that it's just enough without being too extra. So that's the feedback I'm hoping to get from Judy, along with, you know, what other colossal errors have I made here. But it's, I had written it, it was supposed to be for a humorous anthology, didn't quite make the cut, but they did say, we really like your narrative. Can you try sending us something else? And I haven't been able to come up with anything since. So I sent it for a weird anthology, and they said it doesn't quite fit, but we would like to publish it as a standalone, one of these standalone reads. And they do that. They do things that are novelette to novella reads that are these cute little booklets. They're adorable, and I love them so much. However, I didn't feel that I could release something under 5,000 words as a single read. So I asked them, I said, can I expand on it? And luckily they said yes. So I have done this. And so I'm waiting to get the feedback to make sure that the continuity is the same, because I did do a little bit of growing up in the process since I wrote the Wild Harmonic, to make sure that there's enough continuity in the narrative, in the plot, that I haven't accidentally left anything out. And because it's very tongue-in-cheek, as in somebody else's tongue in your cheek, and you can decide what I mean by cheek, where it's that special. I want to make sure that there's a little bit of comedic callback. It's supposed to be humorous. It's dark, but it's quirky. It's a little bit like what I wrote for the things that I wrote for Release the Virgins and Across the Universe, which is another one of my humorous stories. And
what is the name of this awesome tale?
It's called The Spirit of Rodeo. It's a spoof on a Rush title, The Spirit of Radio. And I hope this is okay, because I asked the editor-in-chief, hey, I'm about to go on a podcast. Can I talk about this novella? And I never got around to actually getting an answer, because I was talking about some other stuff that was even weirder than my novella, if you can
Save
believe
the bottle of wine. It's fine. You could just be like, listen, there was drinking and I warned you. Ask for forgiveness, not permission. That is my philosophy in life.
I think he's going to be cool with it, because I've already signed the contract. So it's going to come out in one shape, in some form. But it's basically what happens when a touring rock musician gets in trouble, and the judge decides to give a sentence, gives him two choices: castration or one night as a rodeo clown.
Wow, those are two very different options. I would go with rodeo clown.
I was working on two different stories at the time that I was still crafting this, and I was working on another story at the time, and I wish I had taken a screenshot of what came up in my search engine, because in my search history, the three things that came up was, let me see, it was 3 types of rodeo clowns, how much does a Bosendorfer piano weigh, and how long can a person survive sealed in a New Orleans mausoleum? These were for 2 different stories, but I like the fact that they came up in rapid fire succession.
I tell everybody that and my close friends, such as Jen, know, if I'm ever arrested, I need you to show up with my books in your hand and explain that I am an author. I was interviewing an author, and I forget what she types. Was it for authors or for writing a book? Like, she adds that to the end of every search history she does.
Wow, that's, you know what, that is brilliant. And I think I'm going to share that with pretty much every writing group I belong to, because that's kind of bloody important.
Yeah, because if you don't have a friend, we will all end up in jail for something. And then
I know, right?
Let me explain. I realize this looks like I'm a serial killer, but I write about serial killers. Like,
I had to look up have had to look up some different things. Of course, there's looking up things, and then there is no substitute for actually trying to get as much experience directly as you can without being a method writer. But like in one scene, there's a car on fire, and so I had to contact a friend and whose car had recently caught on fire, and I said, I hope you don't have to answer me if this is bringing up bad memories, but can you please tell me about that time your car caught on fire? Because like, because it's not just enough to see the visuals. I need to know what was the smell was there any heat? What were the sounds? I needed to know more than just there's a flaming car, because people say show don't tell, which is the title of another Rush song, by the way.
I am Googled how long it would take a body to decompose, and depending on the heat.
Oh yeah, that's kind of common with horror writers. I think somebody on one of the forums, people said, what is the weirdest thing that you had to Google today? And one was how much pressure of a human bite can feasibly snap off another person's finger. Another is what deep sea creatures would actually feed on a human corpse. As writers
are in a lot of trouble if they don't predicate that they're writers when you're doing Google searches. I'm quite sure the CIA or whatever is like, what the fuck?
Well, we collect. We what?
They're gonna read your documents file. Be like, oh, here it
is. After a certain point, I'm like, you know what? Bring it on, bitches. Because there's so many people in these forums. Like every now and again, I will pop off some random bit of trivia when my husband and I will be in mixed company, and my husband will say, how did you know, never mind, I don't want to know. And sometimes we'll be walking and I'll get a look on my face. We might be having a meal together, or we might be on a walk, and he'll say, are you creating a scene? Because apparently I get a look on my face when I'm writing in my head. He was like, are you creating a scene?
Yes. Did you kill me in it? These are the questions that are important.
And the answer to that is always no.
No, my boyfriend asked me if I'm going to kill him in a scene, and I'm like, I have to be careful, because if it comes to real life, I can't have it be mimicked. You can't have the guideline. Okay, nice. So we have to meet in person. You are fabulous and fantastic, and I'm so glad Jody reached out to you and told you to come on this show, because you have just been a completely awesome person to talk to.
Thank you, guys. I hope that we can all hang out soon once this stupid pandemic is over, and we can all drink together in real life, because it has been a pleasure getting to know you guys.
No, it absolutely has. And Jen can be our designated driver, which is like the most thoroughly awesome part of it. She wasn't allergic to alcohol the entire time. We used to drink, and then it happened, and then I'm like, designated driver, BFF forever. So I've got to ask you before we end this podcast, what advice do you have for writers? If you could give one piece of nugget of advice, what do you have?
Don't let anybody shatter your confidence.
I love that.
That was the first thing that came to mind.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah, that's everything else will follow. You can develop your chops later. You can go to seminars. You can learn. There are all things that advice that people will tell you. But first and foremost, do not let anybody shatter your confidence.
That is brilliant. Okay, so how do our esteemed listeners, they're esteemed, find you?
BethPattersonmusic.com, and my entire catalog digitally. You can hear me. Everything that I have ever recorded is bethpatterson.bandcamp.com, and my entire digital catalog is on there, and that's everything I've recorded solo. And there are other kinds of weird bootlegs, and if you get me drunk enough, at some point I'll tell you about some cassettes that I released under a pseudonym.
That I'm making a note of that. That's happening. That's happening when we're live and in person.
The ones where the drums sound like, and I don't have the, the money is really good, and I don't have the heart to tell the producer, I think I need a change in direction here. I think I'm going to go under this pseudonym.
Oh, I can't wait.
Because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Well, we're gonna get you drunk enough to make that happen for us. So, how do people find your writing?
Writing is you know, there, I have an Amazon author page, and if I try to rattle off the actual URL,
Beth
I
W.
would,
Patterson.
I would totally fail my driving test right now. But I do have an Amazon and a Goodreads page. I haven't been added to all of the anthologies, but I'm not getting my panties in a bunch because a lot of these are anthologies with lots of people on them. So
Just for the record, if you email Amazon, they will put you on every anthology you're supposed to be in.
I intend to do that. But first, I think I need to, you know, have some food and take a nap first.
Okay, I agree. That should be done. You have been just thoroughly amazing, my friend.
Oh,
You
you
are
guys.
so fantastic. And it's just really, it has been a pleasure, and I can't wait to get to know you more. This is going to be awesome. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. So, for our listening audience and watching audience, this has been Drinking with Authors, a literary briefs episode. And no, we're not in our underwear because apparently that was frowned upon. But I've been Erica Lance,
J.M. Piquet.
and we will see you next time.